Welcome to Dice Controlled Dojo. I'm Phil, and I'm practicing daily and sharing my tips so we can all get better at the craps table. Today, we're going to talk about practice, 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 my daily routine. I'm going to go over exactly how I warm up, what my practice is, and what my goals are for the next day and why. What we're starting out with here is my daily routine, and I'll post that up there on what that looks like. This is what I'm doing every single day to ensure that I'm working on every facet of dice control throwing. Every day, I warm up, I start my day at first thing in the morning when I get up, and I do a 3-minute routine. All of these things I'm going to break down to you in the next 90 days. Each individual thing we'll eventually get to. But my first thing I do in the day is I warm up my hands. It's important that you make sure you're warming up your hands before you throw. You can't wake up in the morning and just start throwing. Your hands are got to loosen up. So it's just like when you're golfing or when you're doing anything, any activity, warm up is essential. So I'll rub my hands. I have some stretches we'll do. I'll stretch my fingers out. I'll make sure that my wrists are loose, and then I'm shaking it off. It's also good to go over, when we go over this, that when you're at the casino, it's going to take a long time once you've thrown, and you're going to be waiting for everybody around the table to throw. So your hands are going to get tight again. So you got to keep them loose. There's got ways we can do it, from playing with playing with your chips to stay loose, to little mini exercises that we can do at the table to make sure that your hands are staying loose. Very important that we keep your hands as warm as possible as we go through. So I do through a 3-minute routine just to get my hands loosened up. Then we work on the throw, and that consists of about 12 minutes on what I'm trying to do. There's many facets to what I do, and we'll go over each one of these. I'm going to break each one of these down into a video throughout the 90 days. But what my first goal is to make sure I'm consistently picking up the dice the same way each time. And what does that look like? So when I'm throwing, my first practice is making sure I'm picking up dice. I have to make sure I can pick up this dice quickly. So if the dice come over to me, I have to make sure I can quickly set it up the way I want. I'm setting the dice a certain way. I'm picking up the dice. My conversion over to the dice so that I'm looking straight down at the dice. Then I'm relaxing my throw and making sure that my arc is the same way, my release is the same way, and my landing zone is the same way each and every time. If I'm working on this each and every day, my idea is to get that muscle memory in my brain. So when you're in the casino and all the lights are on and everybody's yelling and screaming, the dealers are coming and going, you're not missing a beat because you're already working on your next throw, right? And that looks like gripping the dice a certain way, the way you want to, picking them up and converting over. So my practice is going to be making sure I'm using this gripper that I purchased from a source, and it's a great source to make sure that my fingers are aligned each time. I have a little mirror to make sure my fingers are done, and then I'm grabbing it the same way each time. Once I have that down, hopefully my routine gets so embedded in me that I'm able to do the same thing each time. So my throw warm-ups look like gripping, converting, and practice the throw. So I'll be doing a lot of this gripping, which you can do at work or in the car. We'll explain that, making sure you're gripping the same way each time. But then I'm practicing that conversion, making sure when I convert this over to here, that it's the same way each time. My dice are together, I'm lined up, and I'm ready and focused to have that throw. Then my next set of practice is the actual throws and the placement. I use these dice, these chips over here, to align my throws so that my next practice is placement. So once I have my fingers tight, I move it over, and then I'm ready to throw and release. Now I'm picking landing zones. And there's a reason why I pick different landing zones every time I throw. And we'll explain that as we move forward. So I have 9 chips down there. My whole routine is to make sure that I'm hitting those landing zones each time, or I'm kind of getting near it. I want that muscle memory to remember where I'm throwing and adjusting accordingly so that I can name the chip I'm aiming at and I'm hitting it right on there. Once I go through a whole series of practice for practicing my sharp shooting on each one of those dice chips, then I move on to my dead cats, and there's a dead cat routine that I do. A dead cat is when you throw the dice in the air and they hit this corner so perfectly that they just sit right there. They're very hard to do, and there's a whole point and reason that I'll explain later on why you practice for the dead cat, why you practice there, because you want to know where the edge of this table is, and you want to make sure you're throwing to the edge of that table and be able to back off so that you're not dead catting, you're not coming right in and the dice are going all over the place. So I do a lot of dead cat practice, and then my final practice before, this is all for warm-ups before I actually play the game, is my beanbag throws. These are beanbag throws. The reason I use beanbags is when I'm throwing a lot of dice, not just one set each time, if my dice won't chip and hit each other. They'll either hit the top of these and then they'll dribble off, so that leaves me more time for throwing more dice, and it'll allow the dice to land nice and soft. So I haven't hit them yet, but my whole point is to sharpshoot again, trying to make sure I have 3 different zones that I'm aiming for, and then my muscle memory is able to focus on where I'm throwing and where I'm aiming, so I'm ready to go. So my whole warm-up routine is my hand warm-ups for 3 minutes. Then I have 12 minutes of throwing, which consists of first making sure your pickups are good, your conversions are good, your swing practice is good. Then we're sharpshooting. We're hitting 9 different zones. I'm practicing dead cat so I can hit it into the corner exactly where it is. And then I use the rest to go on top of my bean bags to make sure our landing zones are precise. Then we put it all together. After I do all that, the rest of my practice, I'm all warmed up. I got all my stuff ready to go. This is when I do a real live betting event. So I'm practicing with the dice, with the chips, my betting strategy, just making sure everything flows exactly the same way. So I'll put my bets up, making sure that everything's working, because when you're in a casino, when you're practicing, you're not just going to keep throwing, right? Every single time, all the bets are going to go on. So it may be 2 or 3 minutes at times if you're throwing for a long time before you get that next throw. So you got to practice that. You got to practice real life scenarios in the casino. It can't just be throwing and consistently throwing over and over again. You got to know there's downtime, there's distractions, and there's ways you're going to throw to make sure that you're hitting your bets the right way. You don't have to think about them. It's the same way each time, and that your bets come in and you're able to grab those dice and throw them for the next time. Now, after I've done all my 36 throws for the day, it's going to take about an hour. I'm going to take those 36 throws, I'm going to put them in my computer, I'm going to analyze them. How was the throws for the today? Was everything working out the way I wanted it? And if it wasn't, what can I do better to improve that the next day? So with everything, your warm-up and your practice, the next most important thing to do, the most important thing, is to take the time to analyze your daily throw. What went wrong and how did you fix it? So that my plan for the next day, as you will see, I will say I've been one off on one dice all day. The left dice was off all day. So what am I going to do to get back to being throwing the correct way? And I'll show you tips on how to correct all of that through these wonderful coaches and mentors that have helped me through the years to look at the dice and see what's going on and see if I can fix it. So once again, today we talked about how the warm-up is, what my practice looks like, and how we're going to take a goal for the next day to improve. So that's my tip for today. Tomorrow, we're going to talk about golf versus dice control. A very good topic on how I can put it in perspective for people on how golf and dice control are very similar. Hopefully you tune in. And remember, the best betting strategy is to throw for a long time.